Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Okay, back to Breaking Brews. I am Commander Claw. I'm here to present Black Panther Wankandian King. Yeah, this is an awesome commander. It can be built so many different ways. I got to make a video deck tech on two of the three ways that I think is going to be super popular. But I'm not going to be talking and babbling too much about this. I just want to let players know if you never play with selesyna colors, which is green white, it is permanent heavy. So when you play with permanent heavy decks, make sure you add your protection spells because there are lots of players out there with board wipes, and you don't want to be a victim of a board wipe and can't replenish your board after one time, two times, or three times. But anyway, Black Panther is a 2/2 legendary creature, human noble hero. In the next slide, I'm going to make the abilities a lot bigger so you can see on your phone, tablet, whatever you may be watching this video on. All right, Black Panther is a 2/2 creature with first strike. His first ability says Survey the Realm. Super flavorful. Whenever a Black Panther or another creature you control enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target land you control. Second ability is Mind Vibranium. Tap 3. Move all +1/+1 counters from target land you control onto target creature. If one or more +1/+1 counters are moved this way, you gain that much life and draw a card. That is crazy. So essentially, whenever you move, okay, first up, you got to drop creatures into the battlefield. Okay, the more creatures you drop, the more +1/+1 counters are put on a land. Then when you move the counters from a land onto a creature, you gain that much life and draw a card. What are we doing here? And it only costs 2 mana to play this. So with that being said, expect this creature to be removed often. If you're piloting this deck, expect your creature to be removed often. That's why I'm telling you to run protection spells with this commander. But to get a lot of creatures into play, I'm recommending these cards. No doubt you can make a human tribal, right? So I got two cards for you. Horn of Gondor on the left-hand side is a legendary artifact. When it ETBs, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Cool, right? Tap another 3 mana, tap it, create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens where X is the number of humans you control. So if you have the one creature from Horn of Gondor and Black Panther, that's 2 humans. Tap an additional 3, you're making 2 more humans. After that, you're making 4 humans, and those are all creatures that are coming into play, and you're adding +1/+1 counters onto a land. This is, oh man, this is insane. Okay, next card we have Adeline, Resplendent Cathar for 3 mana, 2 white and a colorless. She has *4 for her power and toughness. Human Knight. It has vigilance. Adeline power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Yeah. Whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Yo. So you're just making your board state wider and dropping more creatures onto the play. What's cool about this commander and these colors, Selesnya, they are low CMC. So they actually kind of move relatively fast. It's not aggro, but it has a nice pace that if it's not putting pressure and making your opponents feel like they need to play a board wipe, you could take over the game quickly. So, what can we do to make those counters move? Let me show you. Kalonian Hydra for 5 mana is a 0/0 Hydra. It has trample. When it ETBs, it enters with 4 +1/+1 counters. Okay. Whenever a Kalonian Hydra attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. The moment of silence is showing you how powerful that is. What is going to happen is whenever you move those +1/+1 counters from a land onto a creature, or whenever a creature has a +1/+1 counter, you just double it on an attack trigger. That's insane. That is insane. Especially, oh man, if you had a roaming throne out there with Kalonian Hydra, oh my god, that's pretty much 4 times. Yeah. Let's move on to the next card. So there's so many things you can do with the +1/+1 counters. Resourceful defense for 3 mana is an enchantment. Whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. Why is that powerful? So let's say your creature with +1/+1 counters on it died. You can move those +1/+1 counters onto a target land. Any permanent. It could be put on an artifact. It could be put on an enchantment. But with our commander's scenario, we want to put it back on our lands. So that way we are protecting the amount of +1/+1 counters we have created. All right, to a second ability, tap 5 mana. Move any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. So essentially, you can do what I just described, but for 5 mana at instant speed on anybody's turn. You get the point here. So essentially, you can use this almost like a combat trick. You attack with your commander, and you had, let's say, 10 +1/+1 counters on another creature, right? And you need to move those +1/+1 counters, and nobody blocks your commander. Tap 5 and add all those commanders, all those counters onto your commander, and you can swing for combat damage, commander damage. Yeah, easy. Okay, so we're back with another card that make your counters move, right? That's the theme. Hopeful Initiate for 1 mana, 1 white, a human warlock on a 1/2 body with training. Training, training, training. I'm going to make a deck tech, and it's going to be creatures with the training ability because this is really synergistic with Black Panther. So training says whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Training, 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 training. Every time you attack with 2 creatures, one that's stronger than the other, put a +1/+1 counter. You're just growing your army, growing your army, growing your army. More +1/+1 counters for you to move around the board. Or you can say mining vibranium. Well, that would be from a land to a creature. Anyways, tap 3 mana, remove 2 +1/+1 counters from among creatures you control. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Yes, it is easier to play aura shards. I know. All you gotta do is play a creature and destroy artifact or enchantment. But let's say you don't have that, or you need a redundant piece. This is your redundant piece. Hopeful Initiate. Tap 3 mana, remove 2 +1/+1 counters, and bam, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. And also, it's not as much of as a trap, not a trap, as a threat compared to aura shards. Aura shards, players know they got to destroy that straight up. More cards moving these +1/+1 counters. We got the Cloaked Cadet for 5 mana, green and 4. Human Ranger. It has training. I don't even have to describe that again. Anyways, whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on one or more humans you control, Black Panther is a human noble hero. Humans you control draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, yeah, whenever you get a +1/+1 counter from training or moving counters from land to creatures or from creatures to creatures, you get to draw a card. But it's only once per turn. So, can do it on your turn, your opponent's turn, if somehow you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. Just saying, extra draw triggers. I do think it's a little steep at 5 mana, but it's a pretty strong creature at 2/4. Nice toughness here. Okay, so I got some graveyard shenanigans for selesyna. I think they work really well. It's 2 cards. On the left, we have Iron Apprentice for 1 mana. It's an artifact creature construct for on a 0/0 body. It ETBs and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, if it had a counter on it, put those counters on target creature you control. So, sack outlet, move its +1/+1 counter onto another creature. So I'm literally looking at this creature as another creature to store +1/+1 counters on, and If it becomes a victim of destroy artifacts or victim to combat damage, you can put +1/+1 counters on it somewhere else. And honestly, nobody wants to exile this. That's kind of a waste of a Swords of Plowshare, right? Anyways, Abiding Grace for 3 mana is enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, choose one. You gain 1 life, or return target creature with mana value 1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you see what I'm doing here with Iron Apprentice? If he died, you can just bring him back. Abiding Grace, just bring him back. On 1/1/1 counter here, even more +1/+1 counter somewhere is an additional creature to store +1/+1 counters. And I think that's super important when you're building this deck because you want to not make one creature be the threat and a player, your opposition, have a Swords of Plowshare and just eliminate your whole game plan. So if you made it this far, players agreement, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned to the next video. The next video should be a deck tech on Black Panther. Okay, it's probably going to be Lands Matters or Voltron. I haven't decided either one yet. But if I haven't put out the video, the next video here is the best video for you to watch. Peace, Commander Claw.